Welcome to my story channel. I'm Shamrock. I was reborn into a story about a domineering CEO. For some reason, I was bound to a system. I became the stand-in for the domineering CEO's first love. In order to get away from the control, I carefully planned my fake death. But who knew that after I died, the domineering CEO went crazy and dug up the ground to find me. Now the story officially begins. When I opened my eyes again, I saw a dark room. In the silhouette of the moonlight, I could also see a figure. "You're awake, Evelyn Smith." I sat up in a panic, startled from my dream. I sat up abruptly and said, "Oh man, it's the middle of the night. What are you doing sitting in someone else's bed? You scared me." At this moment, a prompt appeared in my head. System. Congratulations, host, for arriving in this world. A friendly reminder. The current plot is that you had a fight with Andrew Johnson after learning that you are the stand-in for the overbearing CEO's first love, and you were locked up in the villa. Please select the next plot. Exhausted, I ask Andrew Johnson, "What do you really think of me?" Heartbroken, I ignore him and hide under the covers to cry, causing him to feel sorry for me. In a huff, I agree and accept the credit card he hands me. Without hesitation, I press the button repeatedly. After all, love is precious, but money is even more so. Who can resist the lure of money? The next moment, Andrew Johnson slowly paced to the bed. A thin, cold sneer at the corner of his mouth and a careless, domineering smile. "Woman, from today onwards, you will live in the villa and not go out without my orders." After saying this, he threw a bank card onto the quilt. My eyes flashed with gold, as if I could see countless zeros in the account. "How much is there, Mr. Johnson?" Andrew Johnson's face showed a hint of arrogance, and his eyes revealed disdain. "3 million, woman, how about it? You've never seen so much money before, have you? Are you stunned?" "What? 3 million? Only 3 million? This is really too much. Why is it that when other people are supported by the CEO, they are given hundreds of millions of dollars, but when it comes to me, I only get 3 million and I have to sleep with them and provide emotional value? I pay my own social insurance and housing fund, take annual lunch breaks, and don't work overtime on holidays, and I don't get overtime pay either. Damn you, stingy capitalist. I want to have a serious talk with you." As I look at my bank card, flames of anger well up in my eyes. "In that case, we need to have a serious talk, Mr. Johnson. According to the labor law of the People's Republic of China, enterprises should implement a working hour system where workers work no more than 8 hours a day, and an average of no more than 44 hours a week. Employers should ensure that workers have at least 1 day off per week. In addition, I want to be paid separately for working overtime, and double pay for holidays." Andrew Johnson. "Huh." I took a sip of the black tea on the bedside table and continued, "And you have to pay me into the 5 social insurance funds and 1 housing fund. Otherwise, I won't agree to work for your company." Andrew Johnson gritted his teeth and quickly pulled out his computer to draw up the contract, and in one go, he stamped it with the company's seal. "Is that good enough, ancestor?" I carefully checked the contract and nodded with satisfaction before pressing my thumbprint. He is a man who can be a domineering president, and his work efficiency is really high. Hey, isn't that the stand-in for the first love? This trivial matter is much better than working 16 hours a day, never getting paid for overtime, and then suddenly being told that the first version is better after the plan you worked on has been rejected and redone 180 times by the client. After all, these kinds of melodramatic scenes of the love interest being the doppelganger of the protagonist are often played out in TV dramas, and I'm familiar with all kinds of bad plots. Andrew Johnson looked at me with a pale face and said, "Do you have any more questions? If not, let's go downstairs for dinner." I shook my head contentedly, then warned, "Is the annual salary of 3 million after tax? It's not before tax, is it?" Andrew Johnson's expression on his face finally couldn't be maintained, as if it crumbled into dust and fell to the ground a little bit at a time. After a while, 2 words popped out of his mouth. "After tax. Are you satisfied?" My heart, which had been hanging in the balance, finally settled down. That's good, that's good." I casually threw the clothes piled up by the bed over my body, and followed him downstairs to the dining table. I looked at the delicious food in front of me, swallowed and said, "Oh my God, No one told me that the CEO's family eats so well. In my previous life, I was an orphan. After I finally got into college, I started the life of a social animal without a break. But I didn't have the opportunity to live so extravagantly. At this time there was a knock on the door, and the butler walked in with a girl with a pure appearance. "Sir, Miss Sophia Brown is here." Sophia Brown was Andrew Johnson's childhood sweetheart. However, many years ago, due to the serious power struggle within the Johnson family, Andrew Johnson was assigned to work in a small company in the group with no prospects. Later, Sophia Brown decided to go abroad alone, and only recently returned. As soon as he saw Sophia Brown, Andrew Johnson could not hide his joy and stood up to greet her directly. "Evelyn, you're here." Although Sophia Brown was standing next to him, her eyes could not stop glancing over to me. "Andrew, who is this lady?" Everyone knew about Andrew Johnson's secret crush on Sophia Brown, except for Sophia Brown herself. In his heart, Sophia Brown had always been his pure and flawless first love. And even when Andrew Johnson was in trouble and went abroad alone, it was understood to be excusable. I don't understand it either. Are the heroines in the overbearing president genre all blind and the heroes all mute? It's really an incomprehensible combination. Now, Andrew Johnson didn't know how to answer his first love's casual question. The system's voice sounded again. Ding dong, warm reminder. The host is about to enter a new plot. Please pay attention to your choices. When faced with your first love, who has come knocking at your door? Act weird, laugh and scold. Act affectionate to irritate your lover. Say you're the family's nanny and eat like crazy. I quickly made my choice. I stared at Sophia Brown sincerely and spoke up to rescue Andrew Johnson from danger. "I am the nanny, a nanny who specializes in tasting food. You can just call me Miss Smith." Sophia Brown smiled a little reluctantly. Are all nannies so young these days? I smiled and didn't say anything, concentrating on nibbling on the roast pig's trotters on the table, my eyes fixed on the small desserts next to me. I sat on one side, minding my own business, and started eating. You tell me, gnawing, gnawing, gnawing. Who researched this stuff? Chewing, chewing? It's so fragrant, gnawing, 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 and so delicious, it's really not bad. A roasted pig's trotter in my left hand, a small dessert in my right, and a glass of mango juice after dinner. It really is the pinnacle of life. Andrew Johnson let out a sigh, grabbed my hand and shoved the napkin in. "Ancestor, can you eat quietly?" I blushed in embarrassment. I had indeed been too messy just now. I put down the roast pig's trotters in my hands and reached for the hairy crab next to me instead. I also took the opportunity to give Andrew Johnson a piece of green pepper from the shredded pork with green pepper dish, and the pickled mustard greens from the pork belly with pickled mustard greens. Andrew Johnson's expression stiffened for a moment, and he said with a clenched jaw, "Thank you, you're really considerate." I returned a knowing look, and I must have given him the feeling of being at home for the first time, so Andrew Johnson was deeply moved. I gave a wry smile and said, "Andrew, really?" Sophia Brown's hand holding the chopsticks tightened, and she forced a smile, saying, "Andrew, you and Miss Smith really have a good relationship." Oh dear. Things are getting complicated. The smell of green tea filled the air. I waved my hand, grabbed Sophia Brown's plate, and kept saying as I picked up the food, "Here, you can have it all. You mustn't fight, Miss Smith. She may not be good at anything else, but she's really good at serving people." The previous orphanage director was paralyzed for 8 years, and in the end I took care of him by serving him. Sophia Brown. Andrew Johnson. God damn it, I didn't know that serving people was one of your hidden skills. I laughed, and then returned to my seat to enjoy my meal. I had done the same thing when I was a child competing for affection at the orphanage. Opening a blind box is always risky, because you didn't memorize the backstory well enough. In the original storyline, I was the evil female lead. After I got together with Andrew Johnson, I tortured his body and soul. Since my first love returned to the States, and I found out the truth about my double, I've been on a one-way road to death, successfully creating all kinds of opportunities for the male and female leads to be together. I'm a proper tool. While I ate, I looked at Sophia Brown with loving eyes, picking up chopsticks one after the other. To make sure they enjoyed their meal, I even gave special instructions to the butler. That butler, play some music, something festive like the Northeast Chinese folk dance. Tell the kitchen to prepare a big bowl of pickled vegetables with stewed pork bones for Miss Brown to start. The butler smiled awkwardly but politely. Miss Smith, the Chinese chef has gone home for the day, and only the French chef is left. I waved my hand and took out a bank card from Andrew Johnson's pocket. Reward 100,000. The butler calmly accepted the card, dressed in a specially British butler costume, with a red printed apron, and turned to go outside to butcher the pig. The room was suddenly filled with a quiet and peaceful atmosphere. I took out my experience of being urged to drink at the table. Miss Brown, have another piece. The leader is here, and you are not giving face if you don't eat. Sophia Brown was at a loss, looking at Andrew Johnson and reluctantly eating a large piece of meat. I'll eat it. Mr. Johnson, is it that you don't have a big stomach? Look at you, there's still half a bowl of rice left in your bowl. What are you, a fish? Andrew Johnson glared angrily, picked up the bowl and stuffed his mouth with another mouthful of rice. I patted his shoulder and felt his non-existent beer belly satisfied. Hey, that's right. After a while, Sophia Brown left the villa with her big belly and a small bag. Andrew Johnson put down the large bone in his hand and burped loudly from the strain. Evelyn Smith, you win. I knew that this was a compliment to me as a tool person, so I quickly went up to him and flattered him. Oh, it's still the leader who leads well, and the train runs fast and the locomotive leads. Next time I promise to exceed the task. In reply, I heard Andrew Johnson vomiting in the bathroom. I summoned the system with great concern. System, you said that he vomited so violently. Could it be that he is pregnant? The system replied with a tone of helplessness. Host, men cannot get pregnant. I nodded, thinking that Andrew Johnson was still a pure and innocent virgin at this time, guarding his body for his first love. Thinking about this, I became even more angry. System, are you guys out of your minds? Why is the maintenance fee he gives me only $3 million? And it's an annual fee. When I watch TV dramas, the CEO's pay is $100 million in a minute. Why is there such a big discount for me? I was really angry. For the same maintenance, the appearance fees of other people are several times that of my own. Suddenly, I felt that I was working hard and doing multiple jobs, but I was not as well paid as the cleaning lady in the company next door. Before I wanted to flip the table, the system explained out loud, Host, calm down. Now the economy is in decline, inflation is rampant. 8 out of 10 CEOs have gone bankrupt, and the remaining 2 are gay. Andrew Johnson was still carefully selected by us, and countless asset evaluations were conducted before we chose him. He is the only candidate who can afford $3 million as a CEO. I became depressed after hearing the system's words, and felt deeply that the future was hopeless. I felt for myself in Andrew Johnson's top pocket and found a cigarette, and lit it for the system. We sat on the floor together, puffing away. Hey, quickly change jobs. These days, the best prospect is to take the civil service exam. It's better for stability. The system sighed slightly with worry, very confused about itself. After a while, Andrew Johnson vomited in the bathroom and came out to find incense sticks stuck in the ground. He pointed at me, trembling. Evelyn Smith, vomiting is not fatal, and there's no need to hurry and burn incense. Time passed like a flowing river, and half a month passed. During this time, Andrew Johnson was busy as hell during the day, and came back in the evenings to find time to have dinner with me. Today, when he came back, I was slurping snail noodles. Andrew Johnson pushed open the door and frowned. What's going on, Evelyn Smith? What strange things are you eating? I took out the pillow in my arms and threw it at him. Get out. 5 minutes later, Andrew Johnson and I were sitting at the table, eating noodles and fighting over the last fried egg. Andrew Johnson took advantage of his physical strength and slightly outperformed me. Evelyn Smith, the fried egg is mine, you loser. He swallowed the fried egg with a smug look and a smile on his face, as if he were the victor. I gave a small smile, took the pillow and smashed it against Andrew Johnson's head, chasing him around the room. During the truce, I casually took out the First Love role-playing guide Revised Edition 2024 that I had just drafted and placed it in front of him. Andrew Johnson had a lot of question marks in his head. Evelyn Smith, what do you mean? I raise an eyebrow and flip through the document attentively. Page 1, Chapter 1. 500 performance points for wearing First Love's clothes. Page 1, Chapter 2. 1000 Performance Points for Imitating First Love's Way of Speaking. Chapter 3. 2000 Performance Points for Going Out to Dinner and Playing the Role of a Devoted Substitute. Andrew Johnson's grip on the document tightens, and a low pressure surrounds him. You're really something, you've thought of everything. He flips to the back and reaches the last page, sneering. Why isn't there sex? I shyly took out the second book, The First Love Acting Guide to 2024 Final Edition, and slipped it into his hands. This is the additional price In order to do the job perfectly, I would of course think of all my boss's requirements. With a plan there is of course a plan. Andrew Johnson slammed the document in his hand onto the floor, slowly approached me, and a storm brewed in his eyes. Since you think so much of it, let's try it first. I looked at him and a feeling of unease rose in my heart. Hey Andrew Johnson, calm down, don't be impulsive. In an instant, Andrew Johnson gathered me in his arms. At the moment of the kiss, I felt in my heart that he was a bit clumsy. Could it be a first kiss? Andrew Johnson finally let me go. His face was slightly red, and he asked rather awkwardly, How do you feel? I had a wooden face, expressionless. What else could I do? You have no skills at all, and you seem to be nibbling up like a dog. I deeply felt that he couldn't get his first love because he had no skills. Andrew Johnson saw that I was not talking and anxiously asked, What's the matter? You're not going to be conquered by me, are you? I said, Haha, you're thinking too much, it's just that. Andrew Johnson was angry. Since that day I openly mocked his lack of skills. He has been coming home late every day with a drunken smell. It's really frustrating. It seems that being the CEO is not easy. Starting work at 8 o'clock in the day and drinking until 10 o'clock at night. Even the Lord of Hell would say bravo when he sees it. Now I'm standing in front of the door to the bar's private room. System. Congratulations, the plot has been unlocked. The male protagonist is drunk in the bar because he is injured. Please select one of the following modes. Option 1. Get angry and leave the bar. Allowing your first love to take the opportunity to get closer to you and create a chance for the two of you to spend time together. Option 2. Stay and take care of Andrew Johnson to increase your favorability. Option 3. Take out the 5-year college entrance exam and 3-year mock exam in your hands and order him to finish them. He cannot go to sleep until they are finished. The options are really outrageous, goddamn 5-year college entrance exam and 3-year mock exam. Yawning, I looked at the options in front of me and decisively pressed. It was already midnight, and I had no intention of babysitting a drunk. Whoever wanted to join this stupid shift could do so, but not me. I pushed open the door and looked at Andrew Johnson, who was drunk and passed out on the sofa, and Sophia Brown, who was looking after him. The noisy voices in the booth suddenly stopped, and a low murmur could be heard. Friend. This must be Andrew's new partner. She looks just like Sophia Brown. I rolled my eyes internally, expressionless. No. It's not a mistress, they have a signed employment contract. Paying taxes is a normal work-related action. Friend. What do we do now if these two women fight over Andrew? Who do we help? I silently spat. Nonsense, of course we help Sophia Brown. If I were beaten up, I would just pay 10 million compensation. Sophia Brown spoke first. Don't get me wrong, this is Andrew's nanny, Miss Smith. Last time I went to Andrew's house for dinner, Miss Smith was very welcoming. This was a clever way of letting everyone know who Andrew Johnson's closest woman was. It showed that she and Andrew Johnson were close friends, and it also hinted at my status as a servant. The more I looked at Sophia Brown, the more satisfied I became. Dealing with smart people is much easier. Yes, Sophia Brown, you take care of Andrew Johnson. It's best if you don't go home today, so I don't have to open the door for you. Sophia Brown nodded in response. I was just about to walk out when I was grabbed by the thigh. Evelyn Smith, you can't go. You took my first kiss, you're responsible for me, you can't go. Andrew Johnson was reeking of alcohol and mumbling. The people around me buzzed with discussion. Wow. The story of the innocent CEO and the scumbag female stand-in. Sophia Brown's face was ashen and ugly. I said, You've misbehaved, and I won't accept this attitude. This is clearly forced love by a tyrannical nanny. I wept without tears as I tugged at the hem of my pants. I tugged and I tugged and I tugged. My goodness, the desire to go home reached a peak. Andrew Johnson, I tugged, I tugged, I tugged. It was like a tug of war, as we both held our ground. With a crack, Andrew Johnson's unrelenting efforts resulted in my trousers being cut off at the knees. Luxury brand goods really only benefit the rich, as Mr. Lu Soon said. I asked the system in my head, can I choose two options? The system felt a chill and replied cautiously, originally it wasn't allowed. Host, it's illegal to kill calmly. I felt a calm madness in my heart. What? You said it's okay? Okay, thank you. The system disappeared shivering. A little while later, I had an extra copy of 5-year simulation, 3-year college entrance exam in my hands. I ignored the stares of the people around me and dragged the drunk Andrew Johnson back to the villa. A bucket of cold water poured over him, and he instantly came to his senses. What's going on? Is it raining? I threw the book at him with a smile. Do the exercises, and don't go to sleep until you're done. Andrew Johnson's head was spinning. What do you mean? I am the president of a listed company, and you actually want me to do high school questions? Evelyn Smith, you are crazy. I took the little whip and gave him a hard lash. Hurry up, or don't blame me for being rude. The whip was still in my bag when the system sent me the props. Not to mention, this thing is quite useful. Andrew Johnson's face turned red again, redder than last time, spreading directly to his ears. He stammered back, why do you like this style? I'll do it now, don't hit me. I was really speechless. I turned around and went to the wine cellar, picking up a bottle of Lafite Rothschild 1982. I was mainly curious, and I didn't know how much Lafite Rothschild France produced in 1983. I was afraid that the grapes in the world were wasted to supply the entire romantic idol drama. The next morning, I stretched and rolled around in bed, and then I saw Andrew Johnson's handsome face. I have to say, this kid is quite good looking, and it's even better when he doesn't say a word. Andrew Johnson slowly opened his eyes, full of tenderness and gentleness. You're awake, Evelyn. I reached out and covered his mouth. Shut up, don't talk. Andrew Johnson's serious gentleness turned into confusion, and then into shyness. What do you want to play again? I was full of question marks. What was there to play? Did we know each other well enough to have fun? I struggled to get up, but my body ached as if it had been run over by a car. The lost memories gradually returned. It turned out that I had drunk too much red wine yesterday and got drunk myself, and then a series of unsuitable scenes for children occurred. Andrew Johnson, with a disheveled hairdo, reached out and took me in his arms. Evelyn, where do you think we should have our wedding? Do you like Chinese or French? How big do you want your diamond ring to be? Is 10 carats enough? And which kindergarten should our kids go to? Should they study abroad? I was silent. Silence was the Cambridge of tonight. Andrew Johnson reached out and poked me. I swatted it away. Andrew Johnson kept poking. I then swatted him away. Andrew Johnson was undaunted and pursued, his eyes betraying his grievances. Are you saying you don't like my technique again? Andrew Johnson's face was arrogant. I think it's already very good, and next time it will definitely be better than now. I turned my head and looked at him tenderly, and Andrew Johnson's face lit up with joy. Have you heard of a flick? Andrew Johnson was puzzled. The next moment I pushed him away, and he looked surprised. I took the opportunity to give him a gentle swat and said half-jokingly, Andrew Johnson, you have to be careful. Andrew Johnson was choking from my stranglehold and argued, Evelyn, calm down. Calm down, you took the initiative. I refused, cough cough, it didn't work. I didn't believe it. With my good drinking habits, I have done some outrageous things while drunk before. For example, pulling off the leader's toupee, hugging the company's money tree and calling it mom, and arguing with the little black dog downstairs for 3 hours. However, I firmly believe that I will not lose control and do something ridiculous like forcibly taking a woman's man. Half an hour later, I stood in front of the surveillance video on the first floor, embarrassed and wanting to die, with a castle gouged out at my feet. Andrew Johnson was holding an ice pack to his face, gritting his teeth in pain. Now you should believe me, I did try to stop you, I just didn't think you were so strong. The woman in the video collapsed to the ground after taking a sip of wine. Then she lunged at Andrew Johnson, who was on his way downstairs, chanting, "Pretty girl, come give me a kiss, I've got lots of money." Andrew Johnson tried to dissuade her, struggled, and tried to avoid her, but to no avail. I kept up the pressure. "It's all left over from that short-lived ex-husband, a cool $3 million. Come on, it's a great time, act natural." Andrew Johnson's face was as black as the bottom of a pot, and could have been used as a moon crescent. The rest is cut off because there is no surveillance on the second floor for privacy. After watching the video, I finally understood why everyone around me had been trying to persuade me to quit drinking. I had actually done something so outrageous that I refused to admit it, and tried to pull up my pants without admitting it. Andrew Johnson sounded triumphant. "Evelyn Smith, this is the first time I've done this. You know, my mother said that loyalty and trust are the most important things in a marriage. So you have to be nice to me from now on. I have to be in charge of all the big and small things in the family. But I don't want to get married, for heaven's sake. I just want to make money." I struggled to speak. "Andrew Johnson, why don't we just pretend that nothing happened?" Andrew Johnson suddenly became sad, and the light in his eyes disappeared. "Evelyn Smith, are you trying to deny your responsibilities after a drunken encounter, abandon me, and try to run away with your pants up?" I opened my eyes wide. "You can actually read minds?" Andrew Johnson was silent. "Me, although, but there may be a better solution to this." Andrew Johnson was even more depressed. "We signed a contract, and breaking up early is considered a breach of contract. You have to pay 10 times your salary." I said, "You win." Things didn't remain deadlocked forever. Andrew Johnson and I reached a consensus after friendly negotiations. A few days later was Johnson's grandfather's 80th birthday. As long as I accompanied Andrew Johnson and put on a show to reassure the grandfather, we could cancel the contract. Johnson Family Banquet. I put my arm around Andrew Johnson's shoulder, my face almost frozen in a smile. "Oh my goodness, Andrew Johnson, when will the banquet end? I really can't take it anymore. Wearing high heels really hurts." Andrew Johnson looked helpless, came to the rest area, took off the high heels on my feet, and slowly massaged them. "Will this make it better?" Since our last fight, this guy has always acted considerate, deliberately showing off his six-pack abs every night in the living room while working out. What a deep mind. I coughed dryly, adhering to the principle of not wasting anything, and calmly said, "It's okay, Mr. Johnson's technique needs to be improved. Give a good massage, otherwise I won't pay." Andrew Johnson laughed. "Oh my God, that smile is really pretty." No, Evelyn Smith, you have to hold on. Don't be confused by beauty." At this time, Sophia Brown was wearing a little dress, with jewelry on her head, and she was walking over here with Johnson's mother. Sophia Brown said in surprise, "Andrew, what's going on? Why is your nanny here? I really have a headache over this child. This IQ is worrying." "Snap out of it. I'm dressed like this, wearing millions of dollars worth of jewelry. I'm definitely not a nanny." Andrew Johnson lowered his head and helped me put on my shoes. He replied without blinking an eye, "She's not a nanny. I was just teasing you last time." Sophia Brown probably guessed it long ago, and she was just pretending just now. She didn't say anything in response, just trying to belittle me in front of Johnson's mother. I simply looked up at the sky and pretended to be dumb. Johnson's mother looked at Andrew Johnson disapprovingly. "Andrew, this girl looks a bit like Evelyn. Is it true that people in her circle say she's a look-alike? Is that true or not?" I was so shocked that my jaw dropped. "Do you rich people always speak so bluntly? Don't you think I'm transparent and invisible to everyone?" Sophia Brown gently took Johnson's mother's hand in her own. "I don't think so, Auntie. Andrew probably just has a better relationship with Miss Smith, so they hang out more often. Evelyn wouldn't mind, would you, Andrew?" Johnson's mother and Sophia Brown both waited for Andrew Johnson's response. The first rule of the workplace is that when the boss is in an awkward situation and can't answer a question, the subordinate should come to the rescue. I upheld the self-discipline of a wage earner and took a step forward to take the blame for him. "That, Auntie, you've actually misunderstood." But before I could finish, Andrew Johnson interrupted. "Andrew Johnson, we kissed." I widened my eyes. "Dude, what the hell? A confession?" I giggled awkwardly. "It was just a peck. The kind of friendly kiss between friends, ha ha ha. That's all it was, ha ha ha. Don't get the wrong idea, ha ha. Sophia Brown let out a sigh of relief. Johnson's mother fell into deep thought. Just when I thought it was all over. Andrew Johnson dropped another bombshell. He couldn't stop talking, and then he said, "We slept together." Great. Very good. Exceptional. There's nothing else in this world that I care about anymore. I've lost face. Johnson's mother was finally satisfied. Her expression changed, and her face was full of a loving smile. She took my hand affectionately and said, "Evelyn, you're such a good girl. From now on, I'll be your mother." I said, "Isn't this a bit too fast? And the plot is not progressing correctly either. How did it change from a wealthy family's abusive love affair to a loving family?" I said, "Auntie, you've got it all wrong, haven't you?" Johnson's mother took out an invaluable ancestral jade bracelet and a very sharp knife from her bag and said, "What? What misunderstanding?" I subconsciously swallowed, thinking that it was better to save my life. "Mom, there's no misunderstanding." I was scared to death. The Johnson family is really fierce, and they carry weapons with them everywhere. Johnson's mother pulled me and said with satisfaction, "Oh, I finally found a daughter-in-law. When I was young, Andrew Johnson always said he wanted to marry Ultraman. But I was scared to death, and I'm so glad you're here." Andrew Johnson and I looked at each other and saw the embarrassment in his eyes. It was the kind of embarrassment you get when your future wife catches you doing something bad. So Andrew Johnson had such a hobby. How childish. No wonder the house was full of Ultraman models. If I had the time, I would get to know him better, but now it's too late. In fact, Andrew Johnson never intended to let me go. So I teamed up with the system and planned a fake death. On the night of the Taylor family patriarch's birthday, I used the system to get rid of all the following bodyguards. I rode off into the distance, then without hesitation, I charged off the cliff. I once asked the system, "Do I really have to die this way? It's creepy." The system gave me a blank stare and said, "According to research, in 80% of romance novels, the main character dies in a car accident or falls to his death. Because the best thing about this way of dying is that there's no body left." I was convinced by his theory and praised it repeatedly. 6 months later, I came to a coastal city, next to the sports university, and opened a coffee shop with Andrew Johnson's money. I donated all the rest to an orphanage. During the day, I hid out in the coffee shop studying for the civil service exam, and at night I went to the beach to watch the stars. At my urging, the system also quit his job and became an employee of a flower shop under the alias Shitong. Since I fell off the cliff, Andrew Johnson has been searching for me with the rescue team for a long time below the cliff. Everyone else has advised giving up, but he is the only one who is still holding on. The TV reported that CEO Johnson has lost more than 10 pounds due to the loss of his fiancée, and is unable to sleep at night, in a very poor mental state. I stared at Andrew Johnson on the screen and secretly lamented. This guy really wasted a good set of abs for nothing. I guess he's now just a skinny guy. But it doesn't matter because every weekend tall, good-looking male college students come in to spend money, and I get to ogle them all I want. I stood behind the counter whispering to Shitong, "Wow, did you see that? 8-pack abs. He's 1.8 meters tall. Ah, a wolf dog, so handsome." Shitong threw his handkerchief in my face with a look of hatred. "Wipe it off, your drool is dripping down." I didn't care about him. Looking at handsome guys was my only consolation now. The days of exams were really boring, but fortunately hard work pays off and I made it. Because I really had enough of overtime in my previous life, I decided to start over. After breaking up with Andrew Johnson, I made sure to find a job with a 9-to-5 workday and no overtime. A civil servant job fit my requirements perfectly. Wow, wow, wow. Isn't he handsome? Shitong suddenly grabbed my hand and held his phone in front of my face. "Hey, there's good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first?" The 185-centimeter tall, athletic, handsome guy seemed to have noticed that I was looking at him. I was so excited that my heart was pounding, and I didn't really hear what Shitong was saying. I just subconsciously answered, Okay. Shitong, Andrew Johnson has found you." I paused for a moment, thinking I had heard wrong and said loudly, What? Say that again." The operator patted my shoulder and looked at me sympathetically. The bad news is that Andrew Johnson is right outside and can be here in 2 minutes. I almost fainted. He must be a dog, able to find me from a distance of 100,000 li by smell. I was so excited that I didn't notice the young boy who had just peeked in had already walked up to the bar. Hey, can I get your contact information? Fortunately, there was a handsome guy to soothe my wounded heart. I gave a gentle and appropriate smile, and just as I was about to show my QR code, my phone was snatched away by a large hand with well-defined knuckles. No, she's my fiancée, so please behave yourself. Andrew Johnson's cold voice rang out, without a hint of warmth. The young boy was scared off. I was also shocked. Andrew Johnson, let me explain. Everything can be explained, don't be impulsive. Andrew Johnson's eyes were fierce, and he held me in his arms without letting go. Evelyn Smith, do you have a heart? You're so ruthless, I hate you. Ah. When Andrew Johnson calmed down, we were sitting on the coffee table, staring at each other. Andrew Johnson. Tell me, what made you fake your death? Me. I've fallen in love with someone else. I'm sorry. Andrew Johnson's eyes were gloomy, unable to believe that I would cheat on him under his nose. At this time, the waiter came to deliver coffee. Andrew Johnson glared at him viciously. Is this the man who made you abandon me? I nodded desperately like a chick pecking at rice, as if I had grabbed a life preserver. It's him, it's him. A war was about to break out, and I screamed in my heart. Fight, fight, and quickly blend back in after the fight. Don't bother me from looking at the handsome guy. The waiter calmly put down the tray and said helplessly, I'm sorry, you too, I am. Thank you. I had nothing to live for, and even my only comrade in arms had betrayed me. Andrew Johnson let out a sigh of relief. You lied to me again. If you don't go with me today, the Johnson family will buy the coffee shop and make you homeless. Ha ha. I pulled out my phone and showed him the page with the civil servant job offer. Andrew Johnson was silent. After a while he said, why? Am I not good enough? It's not that he wasn't good enough. It's just that love is precious, but freedom is even more precious. From the very beginning, our statuses were not equal. I said, because it was wrong from the start. You're like a child, only thinking about forcing what you can't have. You never realize that love should be the encounter of two equal souls. Love is never a restraint. It's a harbor and a support. Andrew Johnson gave a dejected rub to his face and walked out of the coffee shop without saying anything. Shi-Tong stood at the counter and lamented. I can see that you quite like him too, so why are you holding out? I played with the spoon in my hand and smiled without saying anything. A puppy always needs to be trained to be obedient. I did like Andrew Johnson, but that didn't mean I wanted to be in a passive position in love. Sure enough, the next day, Andrew Johnson came to this town with his luggage and settled down. Every day, he sent me flowers without saying a word. As long as I didn't say anything, he would never stay long, but would just follow me quietly on his way home from work. One spring, Andrew Johnson sent me flowers with a ring inside. He carefully observed my expression. Evelyn, I was wrong about the past. If you refuse to marry me today, I will never force you. I'm willing to wait forever. I looked at the beautiful roses and the man standing in front of me, extended my ring finger and softly said, I do. It turns out that love can make a person humble and slowly blossom.